Okay, so the father of psychology, Carl Gustav Jung, said to live life symbolically. So I'm going to give you a lecture on the meaning behind the burning of Notre Dame in Paris. Now let's begin. We are in Earth Ascension. It is a great change of the ages. We are leaving the age of Pisces and moving into Aquarius. We are going from a 3D world to what is known as a 5D world. Even these words are kind of, we're going from being 3D to multi-dimensional. Might be better than saying the fifth dimension, because it's somewhat limiting to say the fifth dimension, and people don't really understand dimensions anyway, beyond, height, width, and length. That's 3D. And then 5D, well, what are you adding into it? It's difficult to say. And I mean, people write books about it and give lectures, but what exactly is the fifth dimension? Well, if you listen to that song, The Age of Aquarius, by the group The Fifth Dimension, you'll get a good idea of what they meant, and that was around 1969 when that song came out. So we're well into this great change. If you figure you're going to try and do a change in one human lifetime, well, it was initiated after World War II, the Summer of Love, 1969, and that was quite a long time ago. So if you're going to get, a complete revolution, you have to, the French had the 100 Years' War, but, that's a very long lifetime back in those days. And these days, even today, it's rare for someone to reach the century mark. Anyway, I digress. The meaning of the burning of the spire of Notre Dame, immediately I thought of the tarot card, the Tower. And the great metaphysical spiritual writer Stuart Wilde talked about the Tower as being representing the ego. So the burning of the great tower is the burning of the ego. The Armageddon of Revelation has nothing to do with the end of the world and has everything to do with the destruction of the ego. So what we're looking at with the Tower card, with the toppling of the spire of Notre Dame, is, it's a Roman Catholic edifice. So Roman Catholicism, the enormous ego of the whole structure, it's very repressive. And it's kind of funny because if you think of Central America and Bishop Romero, he was absolutely not repressive. He actually was the one that was championing freedom from the oppression of the government. But he was seen as a great progressive in the church. And there was a great backlash against leaders like Romero, who was assassinated. The great conservatives of the Catholic Church, represented by the former Pope, who was retired. And anyway, burning of the spire is basically, to me, it's the tarot card, the Tower, and it is a movement. So when you go through the deck of the tarot cards, you go from the Tower, and you're way up in the Tower, and the Tower collapses and burns, and then you are the fool on the grass. In other words, you have escaped the Tower, which is the great monument of ego. Ego is the opposite of spirit. Ego is all about the idea that you are a separate thing from everything else and that you need to worship yourself. Okay? So the whole tarot deck is all about the journey of the Fool. So if the Fool goes through all these different cards in his journey, or her journey. And once you escape the tower, you're on the grass, you're safe, and you're laughing. That is what happens. You go from being way up in the tower, and it's an enormous collapse, and don't know if you're in great fear or not, but you end up on the grass, beautiful green grass, and you're laughing. So it's a wonderful thing. Now, if you're in Paris and your spire has collapsed and your church has collapsed, perhaps you're going to find me offensive. I'm terribly sorry. I'm looking at this symbolically, and, you know, from the aspect of a loss of architectural treasure, yes, it is a terrible loss. However, I have to look at it symbolically because that's what I do. So please don't think that I'm encouraging people to go and burn monuments and things. I'm not. But it happened, and that is why I am interpreting it symbolically as Carl Jung would. Now, the other thing that burned at the same time as Notre Dame in France was the mosque at the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. And it wasn't major damage to this fire, but it is also symbolic that it happened at the same time. So you have got two very repressive religions, Roman Catholicism and Islam. And everyone knows that, well, maybe you don't know, but the Temple Mount is very famous because it is in the center of Jerusalem. It is holy to Jews, Christians, and Muslims. So you can look it up, the mosque at the Temple Mount, and that was where there was a fire at the same time. Now, basically what we're looking at is a lot of prayers to help us get out of the old Pisces era, which was all about the patriarchy. It was the domination of society by, it was primarily men, and it was repression of women. And now we are going to an enlightened age, a golden age. So now it's true that within Catholicism, as I mentioned, with Bishop Romero, you had progressives. And even in Islam, there is the branch known as the Sufis, who are the ones that are the enlightened ones of the religion. They are the opposite of the ones going around represented by, strangely, the words ISIS or ISIL going around, and well, everyone knows that story. Now, why I say it's very strange, because, you know, this group in the Middle East was called ISIS, or ISIL. Let's go with ISIS. The edifice, I don't know if you call it a basilica or what you would call that thing at Notre Dame, but it was built on a site that apparently, according to Wikipedia, was a temple dedicated to the Roman, possibly Greek goddess Isis. Isn't that bizarre? Yes, so that's very bizarre. So you've got a Roman Catholic thing built on top of what they used to call pagan Isis temple. Well, I don't know where else I want to go with this. There's a million different places you can go with this. In the end, I just wanted to give you the symbology of it all. And then the last little end piece I will give you is that Synchronicity, meaning that things happened concurrently. Someone was having a ceremony where they were praying for the removal of the false matrix that we live in. And this is what happened. You had these two burnings of religious sites. So I would submit it to you that by synchronicity, everything that is false about Roman Catholicism and Islamic thought is to be removed. Now, this is how are you going to remove it from everyone at the same time? Is it a personal thing you must remove? Yes. Because even though you had these symbols of it all, if people go back to their old dogma, their old doctrines, then they have not participated in this removal of this template of falseness. So you must go and look at yourself. If you're a Muslim or you are a Roman Catholic or you don't like these religions, and try and figure it out what exactly it is and I'm not going to finish the sentence. It's up for you to finish the sentence and figure it out. But it's always good time to re-examine what your core beliefs are. This is known as core belief engineering, because if your core beliefs are rooted in some ancient shit that does not serve us today, then you are a stumbling block to yourself, and you're a stumbling block to your children and to your society. So that's about the end of the lecture. Thank you for listening. If you like, you can click on the subscribe button and hit the little bell button if you want notifications of new videos that I put up for you. Thank you very much. I'm Harry Weaver, your narrator.